Hello. Hi everybody. Hello. Hello my Losey Exodus fans, I'm here and welcome back to another stream. So ordinarily I would be reading right now for you guys, so we will get to that momentarily, but my dad wanted me to sew his trousers for tomorrow, so I'm doing that right now. So ha, mom's not free. We can only assume why she's not free. I won't say why she's not free. I could probably guess why she's not free. But it's whatever. It might take a little bit, so it might be a little bit before we can actually get into reading anything. But I will do this as quickly as I can, but it has been a hot minute, hot second since I last sewed anything. So, yeah. This might take a while. This might take a bit. I think Dad tried to sew it himself at one point because it does have stitches in it. Either that or Mom did it and that's how she used to do it. I'm not really sure. I think it's quite interesting how Mom used to sew these though. It's the you know the seam on the trousers at the bottom where it kind of flops around when it shouldn't. Yeah, it's that. But welcome in everybody. Hope you had a wonderful day. I've had a uneventful day. I did hear about Amelie making a song cover contest, and I did think about entering it. I even recorded and everything, but then I thought about it and I thought, no, I don't want to record as I am now. I want to do her song justice. I want to do any song I sing in terms of covering it justice, and in order for me to do that I would have to, when I get around to using it, I would have to learn how to use that program that I downloaded for my song covers. But for now, it's that song cover for Villain Vibes will be on hold until I feel like I'm ready to do it. But I did spend the entirety of yesterday after I came home from dinner learning Villain Vibes, and the rap portion of it was, I tell you, it's hard. To those people who can rap, I commend you for being able to say words fast, because I could never do it. I did do it, keep in mind I did actually manage to do it, but it was hard. It is hard. And for those people who find it very easy to do rap, congratulations, because I find it incredibly hard to do it. But I will still try, nonetheless. I hope everyone's had a relatively uneventful day in terms of not having a disaster happen. I did not have a disaster happen, but I did take my nail polish off, so tomorrow when we get on to, well, not tomorrow, but technically on Friday when we get onto Val with Shinobi with my hand cam, I will not have any nail polish on because I just took it off. And my nails feel a little bit bleh, so I'm not gonna put any nail polish on until it feels smooth again. So you have my naked hands for a little bit. I hope that's okay with you guys. How much more of these do I... Okay, I'm only halfway. I don't even... Actually, no, I'm not even halfway. Never mind. Never mind. I kind of wish that I could show you guys what I'm doing, but if I show you guys what I'm doing, then I have to turn off YouTube Studio and turn on my cam, and in order for me to do that, I have to restart OBS. Yeah. Not doing that. It's too much effort. One day when I'm doing like physical projects, maybe when I do physical projects on stream, I will show you guys my hand cam. So like stuff like I don't know, cross stitching, I guess, cross stitching, diamond stuff. But I wouldn't know what to talk about is the thing. And my desk currently isn't big enough for it. Every time I look down, my model just goes wild. just need to sit up. God, this thing is bright. Shining on my face. I just, I'm now halfway through this trade. Okay. I don't think I have enough thread. I might have to get back, cut more thread. Yeah. Sewing. Jesus liked dark humor. Jesus likes dark humor? Oh, do you have a joke for me that involves dark humor, my guy? But welcome in, Will. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm just sewing my dad's trousers right now. Now you don't have any jokes? That's alright. Don't worry about it. I'm just sewing my dad's trousers right now before we get into reading my book. If you want to know what book we're gonna read in a minute, you can hit !book and it should show you the title and the author. So far, it's a pretty good book, I'd say. But it has been quite a while since we were last on this book. Oh, we're almost there. Nice, book is cool. Book is cool. Books are cool. I have a whole shelf of books that I haven't read. I might skip some of the books that I've already read, but at the same time I want you guys to have a full understanding of the stories that I will read, so I'll probably still read the first books again, because some of the books that I have already read, the reason I've already read them is because they were interesting enough for me to get into, so I read them fully within a short time. But I want to give you guys full warning before we start reading the book, because I feel that I didn't say this because I didn't really realize it when I first started reading books and reading in general for you guys, especially in visual novels and stuff like that, is that I get very tired easily when I'm reading, especially out loud. So I take a little bit longer to read, because it's my fatigue level for reading is very correction, it's easy for me to get fatigued from reading, weirdly enough, but hopefully I can improve on that as we keep doing these, so that I don't get fatigued as easily when I'm reading for you guys, because I would love it if one day when I'm reading for you guys I'm just not yawning. Because it does get very aggravating when I'm yawning at you guys, and I'm just like, wow. It makes it sound like I'm bored, but I'm not. It's just that I'm a little bit fatigued from reading. Whoops. Oh shit, I tightened. No, I tightened it. I tightened it by accident. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. Hopefully it will go unnoticed. Most of it looks fine. I have some YouTube videos playing for me because I don't like it too quiet. Hang on, I'm really focused on threading right now. Because I'm finishing up this one thread because I have to renew it. Yeah. Give me a second. I realized that you typed something in chat. I don't have any excuse, I'm just bad at reading. That's fair, that's fair. Some people are just bad at reading, some people aren't. I find that the people who are really good at reading and read for long periods of times, like Dad, not my dad, I meant Best Dad Tuber, he's really good. He does story times all the time, and he's really good at it. It's very nice and calming when he's reading storybooks for you guys. I just have this last little section to do, and then we can get into reading. I think I should have enough if I just do this, right? Yeah, I should have enough if I just do this. I kind of wish that I brought out the sewing machine to do this, but then I was like, you know what? I need to perfect my threading anyways. Probably would have taken just a couple seconds if I used the You can't even read for a short period. Oh, you know what? There are really, really good short books that you can get over here in this country. They're incredibly good short books. They're like very small, and they tend to be murder mysteries because they want to like keep your attention. And it's very nice, very good, very good. I think I have one. I might read it to you guys when we get around to it. Oh, Sloth, thank you so much for the Prime. Thank you, thank you. Sloth, if you're in the Discord server, then you are eligible to redeem the sketch commission because you just gave me a sub. And yes, you are. For those of you who are Prime subbing, you still get a sketch commission because you guys are giving me support, and I absolutely thank you for it. So this is my way of thanking you, and also enticing people to sub to me. Joking. Anyways, if you're not in the Discord server, there's your Discord server. Do join in. Sloth, if you're already in there, you can go into the sketch commission place and put down what you want me to draw and what type you want it to be drawn in. I do look like John Verdon. I think his book are actually good. Oh, nice. I am a god. No, you're not. You're a goof. I have the screenshots to prove it. Insane, bro. You can't prove anything? I had a screenshot, bitch. It was a typo? Nah, I don't believe that was a typo. I think you actually meant it. You said it with such confidence. You're ready for story time? Well, give me a few minutes because I'm sewing my dad's pants right now. Because mom's busy and I'm the only one that can sew. The only other person in this house that can sew. You can sew my heart back together? Nah, I'll just leave it broken. Why you gotta be so rude? Why you gotta be so rude? Da 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 da. Nah. not rude, I'm just brutally honest. Oh fuck. Oh shit, it's stuck. Oh no, it's fine. I mean, it was funny. I will get my vengeance upon you someday. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Sloth, if you can redeem your wonderful sketch commission at some point. Also at some point I will be shutting down the commissions page for temporary reasons. I will be upgrading it and making it look nice. I'll be making it brand new and everything. So it will include examples of sketch comms for you guys who are subbed so that you can see what you're signing up for when you sub to me. And it will also include potentially some voice comms if you're interested. I'm thinking of doing that. Voice commissions, but I'm not sure yet. In terms of pricing, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do about it. Sewing. Oh shit. I done messed up. No, stop. Okay, it's fine now, I think. Okay. Sewing is done, I guess. I will have to put my stuff away so that oh my god. I'm so glad that you can't see this. It's not straight, but it does the job, I suppose. Yeah, it does the job. It doesn't have to be straight. No one has to see it. Well, no one's gonna see it. It's like I sewed it in black. Okay, it's fine. He won't notice. You can see it? No, you can't. You wish you could. Let me just put stuff away. And I will be handing my trousers. What the fuck? I'll be handing the trousers over to my dad, and then I'll be right back. Alright, I'll be right back. Be right back. Right. Alright, I'll be back. Yeah, a second.
I got a bottle of Patron and some lights off. Two red devil looking eyeballs. And I'm finna turn up when the night falls. If you hear a siren, then it's my fault. Jump in my whip, baby, let's ride. We ain't gonna stop at a red light. And I'ma take shots like a Tech 9. It's gonna get live. Here we go, it's about to go down. got a bottle of Grey Goose and ice cubes. Have a drink that'll put me in the right mood. 80 proof's gonna lower my IQ. And I've been the same way since high school. I look shorty right in her brown eyes. She about to take a trip to Cloud 9. I'm the man, baby, I get the crowd hype. I turn the cadence of a hook into a soundbite. Here we go, it's about to go down. Let me know, I'ma buy another round. Get low, drop it down to the ground. Oh yeah, wow, shorty making pounds. Mama see the put cuffs on my cardiac. Took my breath away like a heart attack. And I'ma spend every dime and my money back. Everybody wanna know.
Are you saying that I'm trying to say that I'm not straight? Cause you'd be right. I'm gay. I'm gay for Donna! JK, I'm not gay, by the way. Alright, book time. For those of you who don't know what we're reading, that is what we're reading. We are reading this book by Mr. Olgarth. We're currently on, I do believe, chapter 5. Yeah, chapter 5 on page 56. Not that you guys need to know that, but I thought it'd be nice to just tell you guys where we're at. We did end in like the middle of the page, so it's like no context if you haven't been here when I was reading, but it's fine. Alright. Oh, wait, hang on. I gotta turn off my... turn off the BGM. Let's have some silence. She grabbed the lever again and heaved it sideways with all her might. The lever came out of its notch and was nearly ripped from her grasp as the weight of the mechanism pulled her forward. The lever hit the end of its travel with a clang, and the spiked wheels were now resting on the floor. Minge grasped and ran around the machine to see what she had done. Oh no! No! She had made matters infinitely worse. The spiked wheels had been lowered completely and the animal was more securely trapped than ever. In vain she tried to pull the lever again, tugging and tugging until she was exhausted. She simply wasn't strong enough. This was impossible. The whole thing was just mad and impossible. She would have to get help. Tears of frustration blurred her vision as she made her way to the door. She couldn't pull the lever back by herself, and she had no way of lifting the machine. It was as heavy as a car, and nobody could lift. She suddenly remembered the bottle jack. Minge knew what it was, and what it was for. She had once earned £2 just for watching someone use one. The bottle jack, the bottle jack. She stood and looked at it, trying to remember what she had seen. Her mom had left for rehearsals one morning and then had run back into the flat 2 minutes later. Damn, she said, slamming the front door. Got a flat tire. Can't you fix it? Said Minge. Got no thingy-majig, said her mom. No jack. The idiot who sold me the car forgot to give it to me. Phone the AA then. No time for that. They could take ages. It's hardly an emergency. I'm supposed to be at rehearsal in 20 minutes. Rats! I'm going to have to ask Colin Bond. Ah! She screamed. Depending on your time zone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Now goodbye. Oh, dear Lord, Blue, thank you so much for stopping. Oh, thank you so much for stopping by. It's nighttime right now, but good evening to you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming by. I really do appreciate it. Colin Bond lived 2 floors up, and her mom could never get away from him. She reckoned he fancied her. He was a pest. But he could fix things. Listen, she said. If I ask Colin to come and change the wheel, then you've got to come with me. I'll give you £1 £2 to stay with me until it's done. It's not nighttime, it's daytime. Can't you see the sun outside? I know it's kind of... I don't know, it's kind of dark. Okay, said Minge. Who would have watched anyway? And so, Colin had come down, delighted to be needed, and he had brought his bottle jack with him. Bottle jack, he said to Minge, though she hasn't asked. Hang on, my arm is itchy. The car, wait, I skipped a whole paragraph, holy. It was a silvery blue thing. Mom had hovered around the car, subjected to Colin's dull running commentary, and continually glancing at her watch. Minge had sat on the garden wall watching, and earning herself £2 for being Mom's chaperone. The car was a Citron, small but quite high up off the ground, and Colin had to find a brick to put under the jack so that it could reach. Minge had hung around dutifully, but vaguely interested in nonetheless. Screw in this little knob here, see? Shove this handle in here, see? And pump it up and down. And up she rises. Easy peasy. He had changed the wheel and then said, "Course, when you're ready and you want to come back down again, you just unscrew your little knob, see, and down she blows." The whole thing sounded quite nautical, I think that word is. Do you want to slay? Let's slay. Hi, Sophia. Welcome in. Thanks, Colin, her mum had said. You're brilliant. She glanced at Minge and raised her eyebrows slightly. My hero! So Minge looked at the bottle jack, much bigger than the one Colin had used, and knew what it was for. But where was the handle? Hang on. I need to drink some water. Give me 2 seconds. God. My head hurts. So whatever. I'll probably go to sleep later anyways, after stream. Did you say My Hero? I mean, it's honestly a very mid-anime, if you ask me. I said My Hero because the book said My Hero, not because I... Oh my god. You know what? Whatever. Do as you please. She found it eventually under the front axle of the tractor, which was probably where the jack would have been. What the fuck? This book has a typo. It says where the jack would have been last used. It says have been twice. Where's my highlighter? Where's my highlighter? I want to highlight it. I want to highlight it. It's hilarious to see typos in books. And I don't doubt it's a typo either. Like, sometimes I would think, hey, wait, is it actually a typo? But this one's definitely a typo, because it says, which was probably where the jack would have been last used. I think it's meant to have, would have been, when last used. Highlight the wrongdoing. It's actually got nothing to do with the author, because it's the editor's job to make sure everything is, like, proofread, right? So technically it's not the author's fault. Which is probably where the jack would have been last used. The front tire being flat. Well, I can't read. So, fuck. She worked out how to the handle fitted onto into the jack and tested it out. This I need to slow down. This time she would think before acting. No more stupid mistakes. She pumped the handle up and down, noting in satisfaction how the center of the jack rose up. The freshly exposed metal tube that slowly appeared as she worked the handle was shiny and clean, in contrast to the blackened, greasy outer casing of the object. It was a bit it was a bit like a bottle, she supposed. She saw that by twisting the little tap-shaped thing on the side of the casing, the central tube could be slowly pushed back down again. And she blessed Colin Bond for that piece of information. She doubted that she would have figured it out for herself. Satisfied, then, that she knew how the thing worked, she dragged the heavy object over to the raking machine and paused to consider where best to put it. It wasn't going to be easy, but after walking around the machine a couple of times, she thought that she could see which part of the frame the jack could be placed under in order to rise the spiky wheels. She had to make a platform out of the concrete blocks for the jack to stand on, and it was a struggle and to lift the heavy object and maneuver it into place. But she got it there somehow in the end, and found that it now just fitted underneath the frame. Good. She stood back, panting a little, and thought for a moment, trying to get it right. Okay then. The half blocks made a firm base on the concrete floor, and the jack stood squarely on top of them. The center of the jack was just below the corner of the frame. It all seemed right. Now she was ready. She looked at the poor animal lying so still beneath the spiky wheels. Later, she would think of it later. Well, here goes, she whispered. She fitted the jack handle into position and gingerly began to pump it up and down. The center of the jack isn't moving. Something is wrong. Then she remembered the little tap thingy on the side. She'd forgotten to screw it back up. She tightened it as much as she could and started pumping again. This time, it worked. The center of the jack rose up smoothly and locked beneath the frame. Minge pumped some more, and the frame began to lift. It was like a miracle. The frame creaked with every action of the handle, and Minge kept stopping to check that nothing bad was happening. She left the jack, cautiously, and bent down to look at the spiked wheel that had pierced the horse's wing. It had moved. It had definitely moved. The spikes were no longer so deeply embedded. She pumped the handle again and again, till eventually the whole front end of the huge raking machine was well off the ground. She crouched down once more to look at the horse and saw that the spikes were no longer even touching it. There was a clear space between the machine and the creature beneath it. It had worked. It had really worked. She stepped back, amazed at herself. It was easily the cleverest thing she had ever done. Now she had to somehow drag the horse from underneath the rake machine and out into the open space of the barn floor, where she could look at it properly. She looked at the floor. It was filthy. And in thinking this, she realized that she was filthy too. Her dung dungarees were black with muck and grease. Her hands and arms were ingrained with the same oily mixture. Her watch, new for her birthday, was in a similar state. And what? Was it really the time? Was that really the time? 4:15? She couldn't believe it was so late. Uncle Brian would be wondering where she could be. He would come looking for her, perhaps, or, oh, this was terrible. But she couldn't go back to the farm in this state, and anyway, what about the horse? There was so much to do yet. Think, think. She had her phone. She could phone the farm and say, what could she say? That she wanted to stay out a bit longer? No better plan occurred to her, and at least Uncle Brian wouldn't come out looking for her then. She wiped her hands on the seat of her dungarees, walked outside the barn, and reached in her pocket for the mobile. I'm gonna sneeze. Never mind, it's gone. The ringtone went on for a long time. Hello? Uncle Brian's voice sunk a bleary. He'd probably been asleep, after all. Uncle Brian, it's Minge. Minge? Where are you? Are you okay? I'm up at the pig barn. The pig barn? He was obviously struggling to comprehend. Yes, I came up here for a picnic, remember? Some picnic. Uncle Brian, I'm having such a lovely time exploring and everything. Do you mind if I stay out a bit longer? I'm absolutely fine. It's just that I'm having such a lovely time. She thought of the winged horse, injured, dying perhaps, and felt so worried to be talking to Uncle Brian. Well, as long as you're safe, I suppose. I'll just do a bit of salad and ham or whatever for tea, and well, that'll be okay then. Will it? Poor old Uncle Brian. It's obviously been a long crib game. Thanks, Uncle Brian. Don't worry if I'm a bit late. I'm not very hungry, and I'm absolutely fine. I'm only playing at the barn. Okay, then. If you're sure you're alright, see you when I see you. Keep safe. I will. Bye. Right then. To work. Minge took the large wooden rake and raked away as much of the muck as possible from the barn floor, as was... Oh. I read it wrong. Same thing. Then she broke open one of the musty straw bales, using the jack handle and the lever off the binder twine, and spread the straw around on... I lost where I was. And spread the straw around on the dirty concrete. She scuffed it and kicked it about with her trainers in an effort to dry the floor as best she could. Grabbing a wooden rake once more, she scraped the wet, dirty straw away. Now the floor looked much better. All the time she was thinking. Her first idea had been to drag the horse out onto some clean straw. But then she wondered if she could unfold the blue polyethylene sheeting and put it on top of the bed. Put it on top of a bed of straw instead, making a kind of mattress. It might be easier to tend to the animal's wounds if it was on top of the polyethylene sheet, rather than half covered in dusty old straw. She was pleased with the idea, so she took an armful of the gray, frosty, smelly straw and spread it liberally over the concrete floor, and the dust making her sneeze. Hello, Sky High Player. We're just currently reading a book right now. Oh, wait. I just realized. Oh, my nose. Okay. I can put this in the title for you guys. Exclamation mark book. And you can figure out what book we're reading by hitting exclamation mark book. Hee hee. Alright. The heavy polyethylene. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, a reading in the thunderstorm. This is gonna be hella cozy. Yeah, get yourself cozy. I'll do my best. There will be a lot of reading mistakes, no doubt about it. But I will do my best. Get some blanket, get some hot cocoa, and well, let's chill out. I already messed up. The heavy polyethylene sheet wasn't so easy to spread out. It had been folded for so long that it really didn't want to be unfolded ever again. After a few minutes of hopelessly struggling, Minch hauled it outside, where there was more room to manhandle and coax it into becoming a sheet once more, rather than some solid block of plastic. She trampled the crackling material into submission, finally, and then dragged it back into the barn, where she was able to arrange it over the thick carpet of straw. It was heavily creased and lumpy, but it was a big improvement on what had been there before. At last she was ready. She looked at her watch. 10 to 5. She could risk another hour, maybe, before going home. Suddenly, she was starving. She had nothing to eat since breakfast. Maybe she should have a sandwich? It seemed wrong, somehow, to be eaten at such a time, but she could think and plan while she ate, and that might help her to do the right thing. Her picnic bag was still in by the barn door, and she was about to delve into it when she caught sight of her blackened hand once more. The tap. The dripping tap at the side of the building. She could wash her hands there. The water didn't remove much of the oil and grease, but it did at least wash the dung off her. Wash the dung off her hands. Wait. Oh, wash the dung off. Oh, it's a new sentence. Her hands were stinging from cuts and splinters, but there was little she could do about that. She grabbed that broken sandwich from the carrier bag and munched at it as she stepped back inside the barn. Her eyes grew accustomed to the dimness once more, and she stood by the horse, astonished all over again by what was happening to her, and what she had achieved. For the first time today, she began to think seriously about what this animal could be, and how it could be. Such things simply did not exist, and yet they existed in books, sort of. Flying horses, angels, mermaids, unicorns, fairies. Had they all been real ones? Was this an ancient survivor from another time? Or was it just a freak thing escaped from some mad zoo or laboratory? Yes, maybe it was an experiment. Maybe it had been bred in a secret lab somewhere. A weird cloning thing? That was possible. That seemed very possible. She finished her sandwich and thought about how she could get the animal on the polyethylene mattress. Moving the poor creature wasn't as difficult as she had imagined it might be. It was so light. She began by carefully folding its wings up and into what seemed like their natural position. But oh, how strange they were to her touch. They were velvety and warm, yet bony all at the same time. She didn't like it at first. It was just too weird. But her initial repulsion turned into curiosity, and then amazement at how delicately constructed they were. They were more bat-like than bird-like, but they also reminded her of paper fans or Chinese lanterns somehow. The way the pattern and the way the pattern of quill-like bones could clearly be seen underneath the skin, and the way in which they folded up so neatly. The blood around the gaping holes in the damaged wing had congealed and turned black. Minge was as gentle as she could be. Next, she brought the edge of the polyethylene sheet up close to the horse and tucked it under oh wait, what? Next, she brought the edge of the polyethylene sheet right up close to the horse and tucked it under both front legs and back. Oh, okay, it does make sense. The legs were so slim, and she was able to grasp the front pair with one hand and the back with the other. As she knelt on the polyethylene sheet, then she simply pulls the little animal from under the raking machine and towards her, edged backwards a bit, pulled some more, and so gradually slid it onto the polyethylene. She hauls the unconscious creature in this fashion to the center of the mattress, where the straw underneath was thickest. A damp smear of blood and muck had been left in it as a trail from the edge of the blue sheet to the middle. But at least the poor thing was on dry and comfortable bed. 5:20. She could allow herself another half an hour or so to try and clean the patient up. But what was she to use? The sacking was going to be the blanket. The scrubbing brush? Too harsh, she thought. She was wearing a t-shirt, but she could hardly turn up at the farmhouse without a top on. Knickers and socks were the only other possibilities. Knickers are underwear, just so that you're aware. She's talking about her panties. Knickers and socks were the only other possibilities, so she decided on her socks. But 2 small white summer socks would hardly do to wash a horse down with, even a miniature horse. Finally, she reasons that it was only the wounds that were really important. If she could wash the dirt away from them, then the rest could wait. She ran round the outside tap, carrying the battered pail, and half filled it with water. Back in the barn, she pulled off her shoes and socks, putting her shoes straight back on again, and carried the bucket unsteadily to the center of the mattress where the horse lay. Why is it? Oh. Putting her hand into one of the socks, she dipped it in the cold water. Then, using her free hand to gently extend the damaged wing, she carefully began to bathe the wounds. The sock quickly became stained pink, but Minge kept rinsing it in the bucket and applied clean water to the torn skin until all the muck and grit had gone. The wounds opened up again and fresh blood began to appear, but Minge felt that it was preferable to the filth that had been there before. When it was as clean as she could make it, she used her other sock to dab the area dry, and then gently let the wing fold into its natural position. And she hoped... fold into a natural and she hoped comfortable position. Oh my god, I'm making up words now. When that was done, she ran round to the tap once more, tipped the dirty water away, and refilled the bucket. She rinsed the dirty socks under the running tap. There was just time to wash the horse's face, and then she would have to go. The animal was alive. She knew that. Gently sponging around its closed eyes and blood-spattered mouth, Minge was aware of the fast, shallow breaths of the unconscious creature. It was still alive, and she would keep it alive. She would not let it go. She would pour strength and healing from her fingertips. She would wash away the pain. Unblinking in a trance almost, she dipped her hand into the cold water again and again. Every movement she made was filled with care. Finally, there was no more time she could do. Why did I say she has no more time she could do? Yeah, I said it, I didn't read it. Finally, there was no more she could do. It was 6 o'clock. She had to go. The heavy old potato sack made a perfect horse blanket, as she had known it would, and she draped it across the fragile and vulnerable creature as a shield against the long night ahead. As a last thought, she drank some of the orange squash from her plastic Coke bottle, tipped the rest away, and refilled it with clean water from the tap. Kneeling by the horse, she gently tipped a little water from the bottle into its mouth. There was no swallowing reaction as she had hoped there might be. A slight movement of the tongue and a twitch of the delicate nostrils perhaps, but nothing more. Minge stayed a few moments longer, stroking the backs of her fingers against the horse's cheek, then said, "I'll be here in the morning, I promise," and left. She could hear the sound of a woodpecker echoing from high up in the royal forest as she walked quickly back down the hill towards Mill Farm. Outside the farmhouse, Minge paused and listened. The noise of the television came through the open window of the downstairs sitting room. With a bit of luck, she might be able to sneak in and dash upstairs into the shower without Uncle Brian seeing her. She crept in through the front door and walked a little along the corridor. The sitting room door was slightly ajar. "Hi, Uncle Brian," she called in as cheerful and normal a voice as she could manage. "Minge, I was beginning to wonder about you. I'm in the sitting room. Come look at this." "I'm going to have a shower. Back in a bit." "What?" But Minge had fled upstairs. She scrubbed and scrubbed, but ordinary shower gel had made hard work of the oil and grease, but on her hands, they still looked pretty black, and the cuts and scratches stung like anything. Washing up liquid might do the trick, she thought, but that would have to wait until she is back downstairs again. She gave her hair a quick blow and with the hairdryer, changed straight into her pajamas, and screwed up her dirty clothes into a bundle. So far, so good. Now she had to get her clothes into the washing machine. She crept down the stairs and padded barefoot across the flagstone hall, through the kitchen and into the little washroom. She just managed to get the dirty bundle into the machine as Uncle Brian walked into the kitchen. "You there, Minge?" "Yes, I'm just washing some clothes." Minge had used the washing machine before, and now she quickly rotated the program switch and pulled it towards her. The machine came on with a click and a hum. Uncle Brian stuck his head around the washroom door and looked at her guilty face. "Aha," he said. "I think I can guess what's going on here." Minge looked horrified. "Yes," continued Uncle Brian. "This looks like a girl who has fallen into a ditch, rolled in umpteen... Oh, Aki, welcome in. Thank you so much for the hydrate. I'll take that right now. And the stretch. Thank you, thank you. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good water. And a stretch. Oh, speaking of having a bad day, right, Soba? My dogs, I fed them today, instead of my dad. And they decided that they wanted to fight over food. And I tried to split them up. Keyword tried. I did succeed eventually, but one of them had bit me. So my this is my right arm, right? Yeah, this is my right arm. My right arm on the top, I think my dog had hit a nerve because it's very hard to move my hand and it's very shaky at the moment. But other than that, I'm okay. But thanks for the hydrate, Aki, and thank you so much for the stretch. Onwards with the story. Hi, Chewie. Yes, continued Uncle Brian. This looks like a girl who has fallen into a ditch, rolled in umpteen cow pads, sat in a pond, and then thought she could get away with it undetected. I do have children of my own, you know, he added. He wasn't really angry, she could tell. Anyway, as long as you're not hurt. Good God, girl, look at your hands! Let me see them! What have you been doing? Minge held out her hands in embarrassment. I was. She hesitated. Playing on the tractor. But I fell off. It sounded bad enough to account for her dirty clothes and a few scratches without being so bad as to merit a real storm. She had judged her reply nicely, for Uncle Brian said quite sternly, Minge, that could have been dangerous. Now, I know that there's no way that could have started the thing or come to any real grief, but for all you knew, you could have pressed the button and been roaring across the West Sedge Moor by now. Please don't touch machinery that you don't understand, okay? Come and here, have some supper then, and we'll say no more. I've saved you a bit of salad. He brightened up. Bring it to the sitting room. There's this amazing nature program on. You'd like it. I think David Attenborough. So Minge, after a final and futile attempt to get her hands really clean, sat with her salad on her lap and tried to be interested in what was on television. It was something about life under the sea, but she couldn't concentrate. So much was going around her head that she felt dizzy and a bit sick. The day had been crammed with such impossible events and such astonishing achievements that she just wanted to be alone in her room to think. She was sure that she would never sleep, although her whole body ached with fatigue. She tried to focus on the television. Just 2 pages. What was the winged horse doing now? She thought of it lying alone in the little barn on the hillside with the sun going down and all the long dark night coming ahead. The television voiceover broke into her thoughts. And it is a fact, an absolute fact, that there are creatures on the surface of this earth that have never been observed by man. Minge glanced up. There are other worlds, world within worlds, that we can only begin to imagine. We might think we have seen all that there is to be seen on this tiny planet of ours. We most certainly have not, and perhaps we never shall. The words were a comfort. She held them to her as the credits scrolled up the screen. There are other worlds, worlds within this world, creatures on this planet that have never been seen by man. Uncle Brian, I think I'll go to bed now. I'm really tired. Okay, Poppet, you do that. You haven't had much to eat, though. Is everything all right? Yes, I'm just tired. Off you go then and get some rest. Sleep tight. Night, Uncle Brian. Night, Minge. God bless. Brian watched the girl leave the room and wondered, not for the first time, whether it had been a good idea to agree looking after her for the holidays. It must be so odd for her after London and the life she was used to. He wasn't much company for her, But then, how many middle-aged men would be company for a 12-year-old? She seemed happy on the whole, though she had certainly looked absolutely washed out tonight. Well, George and Katie would be here in a few days, and perhaps she would be a bit more fun then. Poor old thing. Life is pretty dull for her at present. Minge clambered into the bed and took off her watch. She placed it on her bedside cabinet and looked at it from the delicious softness of her pillow. The pale blue strap and outer casing were still stained and grubby from the day's events. Everything that had happened to her had also happened to her watch. Everything she had seen, the watch had seen. The marks and scratches, the tiny flecks of blood and oil, were a diary of her day, proof that she had been there. Like the army campaign medals of her granddad, her dad's father, which Mum likes to play with sometimes. Her watch was like a medal. Imagine being named Mitch. Her name is Midge. 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 Yeah. If her name was Mitch, it would be a lot easier to pronounce than Midge, yeah. Yeah. Kinda wish it was. How strange it was. But the strangest thing of all, in some ways, and the last thought in her head before she fell asleep, was the business of the heifers. Business with the heifers. She was really, really frightened of cows. They terrified her, or they had done, till today. Chapter 6. Little Martin took a short run up, flapped hard, and gained the lowest branch of the rowdy dow tree. The dead beech. Betch? How do you pronounce that word? Is it betch or beech? Let's find out. It's a type. It's a tree. It is beech. Why is it pronounced beech? Ugh. People are gonna think you're talking about the beech and not the tree. The dead beech that stood in the southern west corner of Council Clearing. He swarmed up the trunk, using the rough footholds that had been hacked into the hard, dry wood. He swung himself up onto the perch, the broken limb that jutted out about 20 feet above ground. Sitting astride the perch, he drew the heavy cleven stick from his jerkin and made himself ready, awaiting the signal from Aken, his captain, on the ground below. Aken stood at the base of the rowdy dow tree and kept an eye on the royal pod, which swung gently like the great wicker beehive among the lower limbs of the royal oak on the other side of the clearing. The painted oilcloth flap remained drawn across the circular entrance. Maglin had been there for some time. Aken wondered whether the general was having trouble in persuading the queen of the urgent need for a meeting. Babette had grown weaker in the brain of late. Her temper was uncertain. Maglin would need much patience if Babette was in one of her black humors. And Maglin was not long in patience. Aken waited apprehensively. Finally, the gorgeously decorated oilcloth was drawn aside, and the Ikrir general appeared at the entrance of the wicker pod. Briefly glancing down at the four-winged guards who stood at the base of the royal oak, Maglin turned momentarily, bowed in the entranceway, then opened his wings and launched himself across the clearing towards the royal Rowdy Dow tree. It's Maglin, not Madeline or Madeline. It's Maglin. God, Silva. An unseen hand drew the curtain again behind him. He landed, rather stiffly, Aken thought, and walked the last few paces, scratching his short gray... That's a whack-ass name. This is a fantasy book. And you really want to talk, aren't you, Silva? You're named after food. You're named after food. Scratching his short gray beard and looking grim. Hemed woman. He muttered darkly as he reached Aken. She grows... Thanks for that, love. She grows madder by the hour. Thanks for the hydrate. I'm gonna take that hydrate. You're not a god. You are a mere goof. I don't know why my nose is acting up today. Anyways. She grows madder by the hour. Muster the various. Aken, all tribes together at Sun Wane. All tribes, said Aken. Oh, where am I? All tribes. Tinklers and Trogglers. Tinklers and Troggles? Are you becoming deaf, Aken? Or does my breath grow faint? Sound the muster. All tribes. Aken stepped back and glanced upwards. Little Martin was looking down from the high perch, awaiting his signal. Muster the various! Shouted Aken. All tribes at Sun Wane! Little Martin hesitated, saw the look on his captain's face, and thought better than to question the command. He took the hard wood cleven sticks and beat two very short tattoos onto the tree, on the trunk of the tree. Did you say troglodytes? Nope. Then a longer burst at incredible speed. A hard, dry sound. He paused for a few seconds, then gave a few short taps in quick succession, biting his lower lip as he concentrated. 5 lengthy bursts end the message. The woods rang with the paradiddle? Oh, it's paradiddle. The woods rang with the paradiddle of the Ikri lads' clavin sticks, sounding for all the world like the green woodpeckers at work. No gorgy ears in the vicinity would have known the difference. See, you said it yourself again. Holy. No gorgy ears in the vicinity would have known the difference. Little Martin took off his cap and waited. Maglin grunted. Gee, beats well. Who is he? Little Martin, said Aken, son of Fetcher Martin, and a Chi, no more. A youth he is now, though small for his years. Ah, yes, Fletcher Martin's son. Well, well, The lead would make a woodpecker. Till sun wane, Aken. All tribes mind. The Ikri general turned and left the clearing, disappearing into the dense trees. Aken watched the general depart, nothing like slight noting the slight stoop in his shoulders and the grayness of his hairs. More marked than ever in the bright afternoon sunlight. He had aged as last season, and 'twas little wonder. These were worrying times. Aken could guess the purpose of the muster. Disappearance of the naiad horse was the talk of the forest. Though only the tribe leaders were supposed to know the reason Pegs had gone. No doubt the council would be discussing some rescue plan, more foolishness in all likelihood. He wondered if Babbitts herself would attend. Aken began to walk away, deep in thought, then remembered little Martin. He turned and glanced aloft to where the lad sat patiently on a high perch. "That'll do," he said, and added, "Woodpecker." Little Martin remained on the perch, his perch, now a while longer, savoring the moment. He clacked the clavin sticks softly against the palms of his hand, and let his legs swing to and fro in time. He knew he had done well. A long year it had taken him to learn his craft. Apprenticed to the hands of Petton, the retiring woodpecker, it was Fletcher Martin, little Martin's father, who had noticed that Petton was struggling to reach the lower branch of the rowdy dow tree, and had noticed also the occasional flatter in the old woodpecker's timing. Falter. It says falter. More than once had a confused message been beaten out of the hollow trunk, and it was Fletcher Martin who had introduced his son to Peyton as a possible apprentice. The youth can't keep still nor more than 2 winks at a time, he explains to Peyton. 'Twould be a mercy for us all if he were learning summat useful with his jumpsy ways. He don't have the patience to be a Fletcher, I knows that. And so Peyton had taken the little fellow on, and found in him a willing and gifted pupil. His small quick hands had grasped the heavy clavin stick eagerly, and his mind was sharp and precise. He learned quickly, practicing for long hours away from the clearing, using a rotten log to deaden the sound. For Peyton, he learned the basic commands, how to summon the various tribe leaders, how to warn of dangers such as the nearby presence of Gorgie, the arrival of a Reynard, and the likelihood of attendant red jackets. He learned how to announce the appearance of the Queen, a rare enough occurrence, how to call the elder council to meeting, how to inform the naiad field workers of an approaching storm, how to bring the tribe in a basket time. And his hands grew quicker, all the while, until at last even Peyton said that he was beginning to sound like a woodpecker, and that today he might climb the rowdy dow tree and take up the perch. The old Ikri was actually glad to see the back of it. It took too much out of him, that frantic ascent to the first branch, and the clavin sticks had seemed of late to grow heavier at each sounding. So little Martin was enjoying his moment and his new position in the world. A muster! His first day, and he had been required to beat out the full muster of the various tinklers and truggles, too. Such a thing was almost unknown, and he had never missed a beat. On the western fringe of the council clearing, far below him, he noticed the figure of Peyton, standing quietly among the beech saplings. He seems to be nodding his head approvingly. Probably he had been there all the time. Little Martin tucked the clavin sticks into his jerkin and rolled lazily backwards off his perch. He turned a half somersault, spread his wings, and spiraled gracefully into the ground. Where? It was a trick he'd been planning, Peyton alone among the saplings. Frowned slightly and then shrugged his shoulders. He supposed that he too must have been young once. Why are you laughing at tinklers? Do you have a problem? Damn, Soba, you're laughing at every little thing that I say. At sunwane, the rattle of the woodpecker rang out again, drilling through the peace of the early evening. Little Martin sounded basket time, followed by the muster of the various, indicating that all were to bring their provender to basket before attending the muster. The wicker baskets, 4 or 5 in number according to the season, were arranged near the base of the rowdy dow tree. Always there would be baskets of meat, fish, and vegetables, one for each, and in season there would be a fruit basket and a grain basket. At basket time, the hunters, farmers, and fishers, Ikri, Naiad, and Wisp, would bring a daily harvest to basket. Then each would take according to his family's needs. What remained would be left to the troggles and tinklers, who brought nothing to the basket, but appeared to live on the charity of other tribes. Little Martin felt sorry for the tribes who dwelled below the grounds. They were poor. Blah, blah. They were poor and led a curious existence, struggling for the base metal ore that lay in the caves and fashioning from the metal they called tinsy, worthless trinkets. Strange drinking vessels and arrowheads that nobody wanted. These they gave in exchange for a little food, but for the most part their efforts were but time-wasting. The upper tribes generally preferred to eat and drink from wooden trenchers and bowls, turned by the naiad carpenters, and bright tinsy gewgaws and adornments of the tinklers and the troggles. So strangely fashioned, were soon grown dull, and given to the children as playthings. The arrowheads, though sharp, were considered to be more trouble than was worth the effort of splicing to shaft. And the majority of archers simply hardened their wooden arrow tips in the charcoal pit. The caves were at the far end of the forest, and the troggles and tinklers would usually only come out at moonrise, to creep shyly about the forest, grubbing for what they could, and to empty the myriad leftovers from the basket. Some of the Naiad farmers would complain that their crops had been stolen in the night, but there was never any real evidence to support this. Strange sounds, too, would emanate from the caves at night, when the Troggles did what they called singing. Their voices would rise and fall in unnatural ways, sometimes together, sometimes alone, rather like the sounds that the birds made, but with words. It was viewed with great suspicion by the upper tribes, who had better things to do with their time than squall their torsals. And anyway, singing was noise, and noise of any kind was to be avoided. But little Martin did not share that opinion of most of his kind. Share the opinions of most of his kind, for he had a secret. A shameful secret. He had heard a Troggle sing, and he liked it. He had crept down to the hawthorn bush near the entrance of the cave many times, even through the cold evenings at late winter and early spring, and had stood hidden, listening, enthralled by the curious sounds echoing from deep within. The voices that rose and fell together in patterns, patterns that he instinctively understood, that reminded him somehow of his clavin sticks, and made him itch to tap his fingers. This was bad enough, but there was worse. He feared that he was in love with a Tinkler maiden. He even knew her name, Henty. Why is she named that? Why is she named that? Her name is Henty. 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 Okay. Oh. The evening when first he had seen her still danced through his dreams at night, and though he had tried to forget her, he could not. He had grown reckless on his last visit, and as the light began to fail at Dimpsy Dusk, this is literally the first book that we've read on this. Fanta and Disappointed? What do you mean? What do you mean? What did I do, Tex? Why did I disappoint you? I didn't say anything. He had emerged from the bush and edged close to the cave entrance, the better to hear the Troggles at their singing. A single voice chanted softly. Sweet Celandine, when leaves are turned to amber, and wild winter time would take our breath away. Then it seemed that 100 voices joined to the single voice, yet still softly, deeply. Into our hearts your golden star will shine, to make our darkness bright again, sweet Celandine. Little Martin was won over heart and soul at this, and was even tentatively trying his own voice. A shocking hearsay. A shocking hearsay to see if it too could perform such magic, when a Tinkler maid suddenly twirled out of the darkness of the cave. Wanna donate coins to the poor? I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can actually do that. If you want, we can do predictions. We can do predictions on games to see if I win or lose a round. So that would be like Overwatch or Apex or Valorant, something like that. Oh, I'm gone again. Wait, you can sing? No, Soba, I can't sing. That's why it's there. Little Martin had been caught with his eyes half closed, his mouth half open, and his whole being off balance, as the dark-haired creature came spitting to within a yard from of where he stood. Her huge eyes flashed white in the dimness of the evening, her pupils as black as charcoal, and she stared at him, horrified. And Ikri! The singing had ceased. I heard. Little Martin began to stammer, feeling the hot tingle of blood rushing from his cheeks to his hair roots. But the tinkler maid was already backing away from him. I didn't mock you, I just said I don't sing, that's why it's there. Drawing the thin, loosely woven cloth of her shawl protectively around her neck and shoulders, her pale, round face retreated into the murky cave, disappearing like a spirit. Your command is broken? It's not broken. A faint orange glow, I'm pretty sure that's only for me, illuminated the corner of the passageway far back inside the cave, but the maid had vanished into some dark side chute. Little Martin heard a muffled voice called Henty, and thought he had a murmured reply, but no more. He stood at the mouth of the cave a little longer, till the silence gradually made him feel self-conscious, and then he eventually left, walking back across the great clearing, through the deepening darkness, smitten, moonstruck, hopelessly conquered, and ashamed. Try it. I want to start gambling ring. I want to start gambling ring right in here. I can do predictions on games, okay? How's that? I will do predictions on games. And we'll do those starting tomorrow because we're playing Overwatch tomorrow. Now, from the high vantage point of his perch, little Martin watched as the various began to arrive in response to his summons. The rowdy Dow trees stood in the corner of the royal clearing, where Southwood and Westwood met. And so the first to arrive were the Ikri, the winged hunters who patrolled these nearby stretches of the forests. Sklur, the captain of the South and West Woods, and some of his younger followers, Benzo, Grizzle, Dredge, and Flinch. That's not what I meant. Ew, Overwatch? Yeah, well, get over it. Came gliding down from the trees. They swaggered over to the baskets and nonchalantly emptied their pecking bags, tossing the limp carcasses of birds and squirrels into the wicker receptacle for meat. Togi and Snurk, two more of the Squirrel's crew, arrived soon after and did likewise. The 7 Ikri sprawled around the base of the rowdy Dow tree, chewing grass stalks, comparing the latest decorative designs which they had painted, tattoo-like, on their wings, and boasted idly of their exploits of the day. Swaggered over it. Yeah, I know, right? Occasionally, they would punch or kick each other in response to some insult or slighting remark. They were young, apart from Skrull, their captain. Unattached, unruly, and unchallenged, they thought highly of themselves. Skrull was cock of the woods in his own estimation, and his followers encouraged him in this belief. We should have a chart of top earners, and we spin a wheel with points. Maybe you should, Tex. Maybe you should go to your streams and make that. He was flattered by their admiration of him, and they in turn were flattered to be chosen as his disciples. Little Martin, high above the 7 lounging hunters, kept still and hoped that he wouldn't be noticed. No such luck. However, for presently Benzo shaded his eyes against the evening sun and looked upwards. "Greetings, Peton! How quiet you be! Or do you still catch breath, you old fool? Hello, though! Tain't patent at all. 'Tis some young snip. What is the old pecker finally dead then? Did he finally come unsticked from his perch?" The others looked up and laughed at this, and Grizzly said, "Now I wonders if young'un here is made of stickier stuff. I mean to find out." He fitted an arrow on his bow and flicked it upwards at little Martin. The arrow glanced harmlessly off the end of a broken limb, but it made little Martin jump. "Grizzly, these shoots like an old hag," calls Benzo. I could be a streamer, Soba would join my cult. He probably would. He hops to his feet and said with an exaggerated menace, "Now, young woodpecker, what have ye done with our poor old Peton?" He drew his bow back with full extent, aiming an arrow directly at the little Ikri, who shrank back in fright against the trunk of the rowdy dow tree. "Don't!" Oh, he said don't. He whispered. "Don't!" he whispered. Benzo shifted his stance slightly and let fly. The arrow whipped past little Martin's cowering head as he so close that he heard the zing of the feathered flights. Screw growled and kicked out at Benzo where he lay. "Leave un be, Benzo. 'Tis Fletcher Martin's cub." Is it then? Well, I suppose 'twould be a sad day for a Fletcher to see his cub come home scuffed full of feathers," laughed Benzo, sitting down and making himself comfortable once more. "I'm gonna eat, have fun with stream. Thanks, Tex. Thank you so much for stopping by. You could actually lurk if you want to. I'm just reading a book today. But it's up to you, of course. Do as you please, as always. I hope you have a wonderful dinner, though. Dinner, lunch, whichever one it is. See you in a bit. In truth, Screw cared little or nothing for the well-being of little Martin, but he had caught sight of Aken and some of the north and east wood hunters dipping through the branches and on the other side of the clearing. Braggart thought he was. He didn't quite like to be seen allowing his underlings to fire arrows at unarmed youth, even if it was in jest. "Now then, Aken," he called, rising to his feet and dusting himself down. "What sport?" He adopted the bluff, brotherly tone he reserved for the captain of the East and North Woods. His equal in rank, but who nevertheless contrived to make him feel inferior. Aken strolled up to the baskets, flanked by two of his archers, Uzu and Ryam. "Fair," said Akem calmly. "A few finches, a pigeon." He dipped his hands into his pecking bag and looked directly at Benzo. But no woodpeckers. Benzo dropped his head, glancing sideways at his friends, and smirked. Aken turned to Skrull. "If I find anyone at that sport again, Skrull, then they'll answer for it. If not to you, then to I." "Garn," muttered Skrull. "'Twas only chaff." But Aken had already turned away, having spotted Glim and his wife Zelma descending from the eastwood trees. He walked over to meet them. Feeling safer now that Aken and Glim were on hand, little Martin turned his attention to the crowd, beginning to arrive from the great clearing at the far end of the forest. The Naiad, a water tribe, now farmers, for the most part, come bearing fruits and vegetables, which they carefully place into baskets. Pilmra, Spindra, Stickle, and two of their wives, Sophia and Faye, stood in a group and stared up curiously at him. Finally, Sophia recognized him. "'Tis little Martin!" The others raised their eyebrows. "What? Be he woodpecker now?" Members of the Wisp tribe, Peter, Todd, Will, Ishak, and Little Ishak, brought strings of eels, their catch from the previous night, and threw them into the fish basket. Two of the Wisp children, Ita and Lori, danced around the rowdy dow tree and tried to catch little Martin's attention. But little Martin was suddenly oblivious to their cavorting. 100 benzos firing. A host of arrows could not have distracted him at that moment, for the Troggles and the Tinklers, so rarely seen by day, had appeared at the far end of the royal clearing. I didn't watch it, so I wouldn't know. They made their way along the narrow pathway between the bushes that separated Royal Clearing from the Great Clearing beyond. This straggling line of hooded creatures, wingless like the Naiad and the Wisps, but generally smaller and stockier. The mute chatter of the upper tribes gradually ceased as all became aware of the approaching cave dwellers. Even Squirrel and his crew rose to their feet and watched in silence as the Troggles and Tinklers made their way into the middle of the royal clearing. You can't tell me what to do, so I'll watch it if I want to. They stood in a huddle by the whipping stone, the age-old lichen-covered hamstone post that marked the center of the clearing. Ghostly they looked. Their skin, what little could be seen of it, was very white, dressed in drab gray cloaks. Their huge eyes peered out from the cowls that they wore to protect themselves from the sunlight. Their heads were not bowed, and their bodies were not bent. They stood upright and gazed about them, meeting the stares of curious onlookers, until it was the onlookers themselves who dropped their heads and stared uncomfortably at their boots. Little Martin, of course, was on the lookout for Henty, the Tinkler maid, whom he had last seen at the entrance of the cave. But the faces of the hood figures below him were mostly hidden from his view. One of the hoods was suddenly thrown back, however, and close-cropped head of the Tagelmole, the leader of the Choggles, was revealed. Tajmole was a stocky figure, broad in the shoulders, as befitting a miner still strong and upright despite his years. Although his face looked gaunt and pale, he left the group and walked over to the provender baskets, drawing something from the folds of his threadbare cloak, a large dead animal which he held, cradled, and his short, powerful arms. It was a hachi-wichi, a hedgehog. The gathered crowd watched him in silence. Tajmol leaned over the meat basket and then put the hedgehog into it, not tossing it in casually as the Ikri hunters might have done, but placing it carefully on top of the pile, as though it was the most precious object he possessed. Which may have indeed been the case. Such a thing was unheard of. A soft ripple of sound ran through the crowd, and little Martin heard Gristle muttering to Benzo, Verse useful thing ye done this day, or any other. But Aken was standing directly below the perch and hissed out at little Martin. Maglin! The Ikri general had appeared from the direction of the council pod, and the Iker general had appeared from the direction of the council pod, the wicker construction that hung from the lower outer branch of the royal oak. Little Martin just had time to beat his arrival on the clavin stick. As the old warrior landed and took command. "Circle the clearing!" shouted Maglin. The tinklers and troggles moved away from the central whipping stone towards the edge of the clearing and joined the circle that the Naiad and the Wisp had already begun to form. The Ikri stayed more or less where they were, spreading themselves out a little until their numbers joined with the first of the Wisp. Soon the outer rim of the council clearing was lined, and all members of the 5 tribes, Ikri, Wisp, Naiad, Tinkers, and Troggles, Maglin strode towards the whipping stone, his dark eyes scanning the semicircle. "Where's Mevin the Green?" he growled. Silence. Nobody had seen the old hag for a moon or more. Mavin was a law unto herself, mad as a pike and almost as dangerous. With her poisonous darts and fearful incantations, she was given a wide berth by all. The youngsters were frankly terrified of her, and even Ikri hunters were glad to avoid her. If she was missing, then so be it. Nobody would be very inclined to go out and seek her out. Maglin decided to let the matter pass. He turns to the direction of the rowdy dow tree and shouted up to little Martin. "Woodpecker! Sounds the council!" The clavin drummed on the hollow beach. Trrr, trrr, trrr. And the entrance cloth of the council pod was visible among the shadows of the royal oak tree. Was drawn aside. Out stepped the 3 ancient counselors, Krozer, Ardel, and Damsk, eldest members of the Ikri, Naiad, and Wisp tribes. They slowly negotiated the little willow ladder that had been placed at the entrance of the pod and made their way unsteadily to the ground, where they stood waiting. 3 gray and whiz figures leaning heavily on their hazelwood staffs. Little Martin wiped his hands what the fuck? What is this word? I've never seen it before. Surreptitiously. Why is there 2 titish? What the fuck? Surreptitiously on his leather jerkin and grasped the clavin sticks in readiness once again. He knew what's coming next, and he bit his lips as he rapidly ran through the patterns in his head. Queen's Herald. He kept his eyes fixed on Maglin, who for some reason was walking over to the edge of the circle where stood the Tinklers and Trogglers. Maglin said something to Tajmol and the Troggle leader, and then returned towards the whipping stone. Little Martin's eye still fixed on Maglin, waiting for his signal. But he was aware of some movement among the Tinklers and Troggles. He glanced at them quickly and saw that they had all thrown back their hoods, their dark hair and delicate skin exposed to the day. How very pale they were. Their faces were the color of the moonlight, just like moonlight. Then Maglin shouted at him, "Queen's Herald!" and made him jump. For a horrible moment his hands fumbled, and one of the clavin sticks turned a somersault in the air. Then he caught it and beat straight into the pattern of the Queen's Herald. The woodpecker rattling sound clear and true through the evening stillness of the forest. He was good, and was conscious of the many faces that had turned their attention from the royal pod to look at him instead. His fingertips flew like the wings of a sparrow as he reached the final long crescendo of the Queen's Herald. Drrrr, tappy, tappity, tappity, drrrr, tappity, tap, tap, tap. He stopped abruptly. A pause. Another short rattle. Pause. 3 more quick taps. Finish. Perfect. He glanced over to where his father stood, along with Peyton, and the approval on their faces made him feel very happy. He tried not to look directly at the tinklers on the far side of the clearing, but he couldn't help peeking shyly over to see if Henty was there. He saw her eventually, half hidden behind the shoulder of Tajmol, and his heart jumped as he recognized her. He was holding the hand of a tiny Tinkler Chi, a brother perhaps? Her hair was tied back, and she was looking less wild than when he had first seen her. Fragile, she seemed now, and ghostly in the slanting shafts of sunlight, and yet still so beautiful. She was not looking at him. There was silence as all waited for the queen to appear. Long moments passed. Benzo yawned, rolled his eyes, and laid his head in mock weariness on the shoulder of Flitch, only to be kicked by Skrull and told to stand upright. The three elder counselors stood bent and motionless, grasping their staffs and staring sadly at the ground. Some of the children started to fidget and scratch themselves as the evening midges began to bite. Little Martin, high up and on the perch, wondered whether he should begin again and looked down at Maglin for a sign. But Maglin remained in the center of the clearing, calmly looking towards the entrance of the royal pod. He knew Babbitts of old. She'd be out when she was ready, and not before. Though she was probably watching them all, even now, through her little spy hole of the wicker wall of the royal pod, or more likely getting Dooley to watch for her and report what's happening. Finally, the painted oilcloth was drawn aside, and Babbitt's Queen of the Ichor, and therefore of all the various, appeared. She was dressed in blue, a light blue gown, and a dark blue cape, tipped with squirrel fur. In her right hand she carried a red touchstone, a sure sign of that this was a serious occasion. Dooley, the queen's maid, helped her mistress over the lip of the circular entranceway, and thence the edge of the little platform which had been added to the royal pod once it had become clear that the queen was no longer capable of using her wings to reach the ground. Here it was suspended by simple ropes and rough wooden pulleys. A wicker chair, once painted soul blue, but now rather faded, was carrying handles on either end. It was known as the gondola. though nobody could remember why. Dooley lent an arm to Babbitt's, and as she clambered heavily onto into the gondola, which swung to and fro rather alarmingly. Once the queen was safely seated, she was carefully lowered to the ground by two of the Ikri guard. The wicker work creaked slightly under the strain. Then, with one guard on each end, the gondola with its royal occupant was lifted by its handles and transported to the edge of the clearing. Here the queen was placed in full view of her gathered subjects. She raised the touchstone high, her white molted arms quivering slightly with the effort. The rays of the evening sun caught the polished surface of the red jasper globe, and for a moment it seemed as though the squat little figure in the wicker chair was holding aloof an orb of fire. Babette lowered the touchstone once more. She was ready. Chapter 7. Your queen, began Babette, in a rather high sing-song voice she adopted when looking for sympathy, is not a well queen. She turned to look at the three counselors, who stood with their heads bowed, and continued, Your queen has been taken from her sick bed and brought into the chill of the evening, which will surely do her more evil than good, in order to attend. And here she reverted to her more usual harsh tone. To some trifling matter of runaway goats. Not runaway, my lady, began Crozer, the elder Ikri counselor, and no, not goats, if you remember. If I remember, cried Babbitts, rising from her seat and brandishing the touchstone threateningly. If I remember, I'll thank you, Crozer, to remember your station. I'll thank you to remember that the Queen remembers everything. Certainly she remembers you, Crozer, for the sniveling, snitched little toady you ever were. She waved the touchstone in the direction of Damsk and the elder wisp, who looked suitably alarmed. You, she cried, remind all those whose wits may be feeble of the reason we were mustered on this inclement eve. A full account, mind, that all may understand why. She sank back in her chair once again. Your queen appears before you in her suffering. And that is what we'll finish it for today, because it just hit midnight, and I do apologize for the short stream, but yeah, I did start late, and then we ended up having to sew my dad's trousers at the beginning, and then yeah, stuff happened. But tomorrow it'll either be a long stream or there's 2 streams very, very shortly after the first one. So after my first stream at 9, I will be streaming again at 2:30 a.m., I think, with Shinobi, and we'll be playing Valorant. Oh, stretching again. God, my elbows are tired from resting on the table. I hope you enjoy it, though. I am very tired from reading. It is exhausting to read. But I hope I'll get better and it'll be less exhausting. I don't think I'll raid anybody today since it was yeah, I don't know if anybody else is having a chilling moment right now. But thank you, Little Thief, so much for coming to today's stream. I hope you enjoyed the chill time today. If you're not already in the Discord server, do join my Discord server. Follow me on all my socials. There's my VOD channel if you missed a stream, or if you want to listen to the beginning of the book, the streams are there. Do follow my second channel. There are going to be videos up on there soon, I promise. And do follow my TikToks for highlights and things like that. if you're interested in a commission, don't forget that my commission page is still up, so you can still order commission from there for now until I decide when I'm going to upgrade it. If you are subbed, do please join the Discord server. Make sure your Twitch is connected to your Discord, because that's how I know who you are. And ensure that you have that role so that you can redeem your wonderful little things called sketch commissions. For those of you subbing through Prime, obviously your sketch commission is free, but for those of you subbing to me normally, you're paying me to do shit, so thank you for the muns. But that'll be all. Thank y'all once again so much for coming, and I'll see you, my little thieves, in the next one. Bye.